Welcome to Chefs in the City. I'm your host, Ann Fisher, along with my co-hosts, Steve Stover and Rich Tarapak. Both great chefs, cooking teachers, and great world travelers. We've been together a long time now talking about food and drink. Right now, we're seeing a sweeping outbreak of cyclosporiasis, an intestinal illness caused by a microscopic parasite, Cyclospora. Fresh produce and water are main vectors. Home cooks are affected for sure, but the pivots for restaurateurs are more complicated, of course. And just in time, joining us to talk about that and other news from the restaurant world is John Barker of the Ohio Restaurant Association. Welcome, John.
Good to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't the first time something like this has popped up and, made everyone stop and rethink, their lettuce. It often is lettuce related. And I'm really sorry to kick this off on a bummer, but people are worried. So what is your sense? I mean, what's the general, the common, what am I thinking of, wisdom on how restaurants handle these kinds of outbreaks?
Yeah, well, it really depends on what you serve. And so if you're a restaurant that doesn't have fresh lettuce, that's not really as much of an issue. So, but if you're serving any sort of salad or you're putting that on top of sandwiches, you have to stop and think about it. Think about what your source is. Do you have the ability to do any kind of tracing and tracking back through your distributor, back maybe to a farm where we're getting it from? If you can do that, you have a high degree of confidence in your product. If you can't, then you got to ask yourself. And so one of the companies that is in the news is Taco Bell,
right,
which is very popular with young people. And so are they able to track that down? And, we have the ability through data and tracking to get right back to the farm, not only the farm, but the portion of the farm. And that's what CDC is working on right now with the departments of health and then the major farms coming from California where these things happen. So the science is good. They haven't narrowed it all the way down just yet, though. And I was a little surprised. I thought by now we would have it.
Yeah.
So we tell restaurateurs, you got to go back to your distributors, or if you're buying it directly from a farm that's not coming from California, you're probably okay. But each restaurant has
like if it's
to
local,
determine it. Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Right.
What about the messaging to patrons? Is it something they should be out front about? We're checking on this. We're looking at.
It was interesting. I was at a place called High Bank Distillery yesterday,
sure.
And even though that's the name of it, they actually have a nice restaurant
in
their locations. And they were not talking about. They had salads on the menu. They weren't talking about it. But I know our advice to operators is make sure you train your servers. And so if the question comes up and somebody's even a little bit on the fence, get something else. Have chicken, or just avoid it if you have a concern about it. Mm-hmm. And particularly if you have any kind of health issues, you're already compromised in any way, why do it? Why take a chance? And so yesterday, one of the young ladies at my table got soup and a grilled cheese sandwich.
So nothing green about it.
She was just
100 degrees outside my hat.
I said to her, how good was that soup? It was 95 when we walked in.
So also have something alternatives on the menu.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're already asking, the servers are already asking about allergies. And I think that's a good time to give the opportunity for the customer to say, and how about that lettuce? And they can, just so they have a response.
We really encourage the allergen conversation because it makes the customer, the guest feel so much better that you care.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you go back in the kitchen and you talk to the cook or the chef and you take care of that carefully. I have actually a peanut. Tree nut allergy. Okay. So if they don't bring it up, I bring it up. Almost always, right? Not at a fast food restaurant, but any type of a good restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then, speaking of training employees, let's talk about the labor market and what's happening with that, because one statistic I looked at that affects restaurants a lot is the number of teenagers out there who are employable. Apparently, it's down about 200,000 nationwide right now, these are our bussers. These are the guys doing the dishes back in the kitchen. So what's going on?
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. If you look at population trends over a long period of time, we're just in a very low period of time. Those people turning ages 14 to 18, which is where we get a lot of folks to come in that first job and bussing tables, maybe working the host stand, those sort of jobs. And so it's just a low amount of people anyways to begin with. Secondly, they're just not as motivated. And we always say that. The older you get, the more you say, boy, that generation doesn't do anything. They said the same thing about us, right? But it's a low point. I think people are not quite as motivated to work. It depends on where you are, though. If you're in certain neighborhoods and so forth, our restaurants are not really seeing as much. In some areas, this is an odd one, but in more affluent areas, that's where they have the hardest time because the kids have the money already.
They don't need a job.
And if they show up for an interview, the classic story, they show up in their Mercedes. You want me to actually work on Friday night and Saturday night? Are you kidding? I can't do that. So it's a little bit of that. We as always, our industry is shorthanded. We're down still somewhere. Our latest surveys, we're short because we survey operators in Ohio and across the United States, depending on the market, 10 to 15% short still now. Yeah.
Well, on a brighter note, how is the industry doing on the whole?
Yeah, just looking at that data, it depends. It depends on the segment. And right now, quick serve or fast food is under a lot of pressure. And the reason is their core customer is having a really hard time with the economy. They're under a lot of pressure. They have a limited amount of disposable income, and they're paying more for gasoline. They're paying more at the grocery store. They're paying more for a haircut. Everything is going up, and so they're squeezing down a little bit. People who are a little more affluent have not slowed down what they're doing. They're going out, and so I just every couple of weeks I touch base with a number of our operators across the segments. In our higher end restaurants and our what I call like posh casual, that just a little bit higher than mid scale, they're doing really well. They're not blowing the doors up, but they're doing well. They're putting up positive numbers year over year, and it's not just menu price. They're actually getting their customer transactions up a little bit, and that's a pretty healthy sign.
More feet through the door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or through the not drive-through, delivery. I don't but
Never done it? Never will.
But it's an important part of their business now. I mean, it used to be before the pandemic, a lot of them didn't want to do it, or maybe it was 2 to 3% of sales. And now what we're hearing is it's 15, 16, 17% of sales.
Wow.
I know,
Wow.
crazy. But their customers are not the
It's our
four of us.
kids.
Yeah, they're younger people who are saying,
Yeah.
I don't care. I just wanted to come to the door.
But could you tell us more about the segment that's growing?
So the segment that's growing, ironically, right now is a lot of casual dining. They're able to offer some pretty good value right now. And the classic one I'm hearing a lot about is Chili's, which some of you may have been there earlier in our lives because it was margarita destination, things like
All you can eat?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a culinary destination. You went there to have a good time and
Meet
maybe
the folks from the office,
chips
kind of
and things like that, right? But they really, it's interesting. Concepts like that have figured out a way to deliver really good value that's not, it's way below posh and fine dining price-wise. But it's about the same price as going, your kids want to go through the drive-thru and all, but it's about the same price. So, and the quality is, you get to sit down,
That's
you have
right.
a server.
Yeah, because the burger joints have probably gone up because of the price of beef.
Yeah, and you have servers. It feels like you're going out to eat. You're not really.
Really interesting.
It's kind of a quick. But I don't know. It's the strangest thing watching what works, what clicks. They have had a 4-year run where their volumes in their restaurants have doubled, which I haven't really.
Wow.
I haven't seen that because that's a pretty big business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I listen to like the focus groups and so forth, and people get caught up in the, this. Have you seen the cheese pool? So you go to a restaurant and you order fried cheese, mozzarella or something like that, and then they pull it and they put it on social media and they get millions and millions of likes. It's just, this is crazy, right?
Wow.
But it's what young people like to do. I like to go eat really good cheese. I don't know about pulling it, but
With wine.
With wine, right.
But it's just interesting to watch it.
Yeah.
But we were just talking, I think, last year about how that range of restaurants were kind of, like the chili. I thought they were having a hard time. Now I'm blanking lobster.
Oh, Red Lobster.
Red Lobster.
Yeah, Red
Yeah,
Lobster.
I mean that
Yeah.
whole thing and how they had to
They've recovered.
really contract.
They had a different issue, though. Remember, they tried to give away
Too much.
lobster and shrimp, and then
Yeah.
they got hurt by all that.
Okay.
All you can eat or not.
Right. And, and I don't look, I have to love all restaurants. But my bylaws, John Parker's bylaws
Yeah.
as a CEO, I love every restaurant.
Yeah.
But, you know what you're getting when you go to a place like
Yeah.
that. Different than if you go to a really nice seafood restaurant where they have, it's very, the culinary is top shelf and all that. It depends on what you want to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Americans don't seem to mind a lot of low price food. I mean, Americans sort of like, I was watching the soccer, everybody coming in the United States for the soccer tournament, and they love going to, Costco.
Yeah.
Or Buc-ee's. I mean, places like that.
Yeah.
And of course, that's great and everything, but like, I hope they see more than that when they come to America.
And ranch dressing.
The ranch dressing thing befuddled me because I thought they were all getting knocked, at the airport. They're like, duh, that's liquids they're bringing in. Like, did anyone tell them about the packet you can get that you just mix with mayo and sour
Buttermilk.
cream
Yeah.
or buttermilk? Yeah, I've never made it, but I mean, it's there. So
Didn't they eventually
pro tip.
come out with a 3.5 ounce packet?
Yes, someone did. Yes.
And to your question, though, I will say this: the restaurant industry is tough, and over time, the averages are the averages, but it's the reality of each operator and how they're doing. I'd say many operators are telling me the profitability is really the issue today. And the margins are really tight. Now, the pandemic, we have to throw that out because that was
Yeah.
just a weird little time. But what I'm hearing is a lot of them are just scratching out a very low percentage profit. So 2 to 3% is not the kind of business that people say, I want to rush into that. So that worries me a little bit, and that's inflation. That's just
Yeah.
purely inflation.
Well, and meanwhile, back at the ranch, getting back to the labor issue, they've had to change their tune somewhat as far as what they're. I mean,
Yeah.
what was it? A recent survey of 750 restaurant workers found that 61% of the workers skip meals because they can't afford food for themselves. And that's kind of quite the indictment. I'm sure I know it's more complicated than that, but 3 out of 4 workers live paycheck to paycheck. So where do you get the workers when they can't make a living?
Right. No, and that's why these segments, some are doing better than others,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think sit-down restaurants that allow, they have tipping, they are doing better because those individuals are making more money. They're on average, these are averages again, about $27, $28 an hour between their salary and their tips. So that's enough money to, versus
Goodbye.
if you just work at a restaurant where you're getting, 12 or 13 or $14 an hour. And that's a market price, very much dependent on where you are and things like that. But it's always been a low wage business because you have teenagers and you have young people. And but if you want to make a living at it, you almost have to then move into management, move into culinary, or you have to move into fine dining or posh and where you have an opportunity to make more money. And that's what most people do. Most people that we know as they're looking through careers, they matriculate into those sorts of businesses. They might start a little mom and pop restaurant that's more like a quick serve or fast food, but then over time they move. What we love to see is so many operators go off and open their own restaurants, and that's where they kind of live the American dream. And they came out of that, like where they didn't make a lot of
Kitchen
money.
social.
Yeah.
Right. Or 101, what's it, 101 Craft? We were just talking about 101
Craft beer.
And it's,
Yeah,
but it's culinary forward.
Yeah.
I mean, they have craft beer, but now it's
It
really
is.
all about the food.
Right.
And they do a really nice job.
What is it? 3 Streams or 3 Creeks out in Gahanna. The guy owned 6 bars and turned one of them into a very nice restaurant,
Right.
and with real quality food. So,
Yeah. I think the pure bar business is in a little bit of flux right now. That's another segment of ours. And part of it is GLPs are definitely impacting, particularly younger millennials and Gen Z. And as well as just the general information we hear about drinking, whether you believe it or not, right? Young people are taking that very seriously. And so they're not stopping going out. They're going out and drinking a little bit less, and they're moving to the mocktails,
Right.
which are not cheap.
No,
considering the cost of the
Well, they're
ingredients.
$12, $13, $14, $15.
Yeah.
our
But that's,
13-year-old granddaughter does that.
yeah. So it's just interesting to watch. I don't know if that'll stick or not, you know what I mean? But we know that bourbon sales are down and whiskey sales are down, vodka sales are down. That's just the data. Those are all trending down in terms of volume that people are drinking. Tequila is up, but these are all trends. We've all seen these, right? Because for a long time it was gin and it was
It's
vodka,
not just
it was
tequila.
bourbon,
It's
you know,
these extremely fancy tequilas. It's sipping tequila, not margie tequila.
Right.
Not chugging.
Right.
And
The ones on the top shelf of the refrigerator.
and as someone from the generation of Shirley Temples, I really can't believe anyone's buying mocktails for a young child. So we yeah, right, exactly. But a lot of us, I mean, and I'm wondering with the industry, if this was reflected in the industry, that we're a lot more sensitive to these issues now. What it's, because of the pandemic. I think we got sensitized. Do restaurateurs see that, or is it just me?
No, they're very restaurateurs. What I love about them is they're salt of the earth. Man, they scratch and so they work really hard. They listen to their team, their staff, and all that. And for example, we teed up. We're doing a survey. We did a big study with Ohio State, and it's on the GLPs because there's so much information out. GLP. So this is
The weight loss drug.
It was initially a drug to deal with diabetes.
Yeah.
I heard GOP.
Oh, I'm sorry, GLP. No, not GLP. We're not studying that. but so basically, it changes the receptors in your brain in terms of what you can eat, what you want to eat, how much you want to drink, things like that. And so we've been working on this with Ohio State, and it's rolling out right now. In fact, it'll be in the Columbus Dispatch, a big story. We're doing with Bob Vitale, and then we'll be rolling that out. But we wanted to make sure we had the data, so we interviewed not only just restaurant operators, their view, what they're learning, and their experiences, but we did consumer research as well. So that'll all come out. But basically, it's coming down to the number of people who are on some form of a GLP is in the mid-teens, and it's rising. And it's rising because now they have the pill form, and now it's going to be covered by Medicare.
And mid-teens, you mean percentage of adults?
Sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay,
percentage of adults, right? But
and it's far less expensive.
it's coming down, right?
Yeah.
so far.
We'll just see how
$100 a month.
Yeah.
So far.
Well, so then we teed it up at a board meeting. So we have a board, 35 people on our board, and our staff. Our staff typically is younger than the board. And we kind of went around the room, people made comments, and a few of the folks said, that's just BS. It's a fad. I don't want to pay any attention to that. And I said, okay. And some people said, my business is all about indulgent foods. I don't want to hear about that. And that's fine too. But then the young people said, I'm on it. My friend's on it. Here's how we go out. Here's what we do. We eat less food. We kind of
stick with the appetizers.
Yeah, that's right. They get a bunch of appetizers.
Some restaurants are creating menus with GLP considerations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Smaller portions. Couldn't everybody save something by having smaller portions? You can't,
I think it's genius, right? It's just like every other thing that's coming down. You either just put your head in the ground and ignore it, or you say, how do I take advantage of it?
into it.
Take advantage of it. Keep your big steaks on. That's fine, or your ribs or chicken, whatever your core, like don't abandon that because that people still come for that.
That's right.
But if you got these young people who are coming knocking on the door, say, what do you got for me? Then just, I bet the chefs are going to have fun with this.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Creativity.
The left side of the
menu. A tomahawk chop, rather. It's the left
We
side
do
of the
that.
menu.
Yeah.
And that's when the creativity is, I think. You still got to have the other stuff on the right.
Well, the big ones, like the Chili's and whatnot, they're looking at this, aren't they? I mean, they're actively catering to it.
They are, because they have the resources to do it.
Right.
But I got to tell you, it's funny. We went around the room and we got to one restaurant operator. She's up in Cleveland. She's on our board, and she said, "I'm already doing it." She said, I don't have to get anybody to approve it. I'm the CEO. I'm the chef. I'm the R&D team. She said, we're already. She said, and it's a tapas restaurant. Just fantastic Spanish food. Mallorca. It's in Cleveland. Anyways, she said, I already have like all kind of little things, and it's easy for me. And we just, what she didn't want to have is veto votes. Like the four of us are going out. And say one of us are on serious GLP, and we don't want to have a big steak, or we don't want to have a big gigantic meal, but we don't want to stop you from having it.
Yeah.
So we go out to this restaurant. It has all these options, and I'm happy as can be. You say you still want to get a big meal, and we're all happy. And that's, I think, what restaurants are good at, and I think they'll continue to be good at it. But we want to make sure that we give the data and the facts, and then each business can decide how to make it work for them.
Bob Vitale's doing the article.
He is.
He's
Yeah.
good. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. You know, get him back on. Just we're almost out of time, but I was just wondering generally, what are some of the trends you're seeing when it comes to cuisines? So I guess we're getting into more of the specialty restaurants and the posher places. But
Yeah.
what do people want to eat?
Yeah, I think people want more flavor. They're willing to be a little more exotic. And in the Midwest, exotic used to be like a spicy Italian, right?
But not too hot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I love it. Like, you go places now and there's more sauces, there's more flavors, that we're seeing a lot of Middle Eastern flavors, which are just really delicious. And you got to know what you're doing with that and that kind of stuff. Texas Roadhouse is probably not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
But our fine dining restaurants are going to just thrive with all this. And younger people, because we travel more, people younger have, for whatever reason, they're spending more money on travel.
It's ridiculous destination weddings.
Right. But they come back and
Exhibit
say,
A.
I've been to Spain, I've been to Italy, and I've been to the Far East. And, my son spent a year between Taiwan and in some Far East. And he came back and he just talked about all these different foods that he had and how low priced they were and fresh they were, and just saying, that was wonderful. And he says, well, where can I get that now in Ohio, right? And you can get it, but it's not as prevalent. But I think we've talked about this in the past. Ohio used to be 3, 4, 5 years behind. Not really. Not anymore. When I traveled to LA, I was just up in Oregon and I saw all these different things. And I thought to myself, can I get that back in Ohio? And you just got to work at it a little bit. I was in a Harry and David. So Harry and David's based in Oregon. And so we went in.
The mail order.
Yeah. But I mean, they have all kinds of different things in it, but it's beautiful. They've been shipping out, pears and things like that with their core business, but they realize not everybody wants a box of pears every month, right? So they're getting all kinds of different things in their lineup, right? You can order, right? It's beautiful to see it, right?
Yeah,
but
change is good.
It is, and it's just I think it's really just flavors, right? I do see more vegetarian than ever, and some of it's pure vegetarian, some are variations. They some are vegetarian, but I eat shrimp.
Right.
It's maybe not pure vegetarian, but I think that has to do with a little bit concern about beef and things like that. Now, ironically, our beef consumption in the United States hit another all-time high.
Really?
That's
2020.
something.
Yeah,
Really?
Even though a hamburger is up by whatever percent. Yeah.
yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah.
I buy it, but we eat less.
Yeah, we definitely eat less.
It's more of an age thing than a money thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's health and wellness and all that kind of stuff. Well, John Barker, thanks so much for joining us. This has been great to have you in here.
Love being here. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for what you're doing.
Because that's all the time we have today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to you for John Barker, of course, of the Ohio Restaurant Association. Thanks to you for joining us, and thanks to everyone else out there for watching and listening. Remember, a meal is best shared. So share a link to Chefs in the City with people you love to eat with. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. From all of us at Chefs in the City, take care and see you next week.
Boxland Media. Think big.